Vishnu Bandhu, a businessman, founder, chairman, and presidential candidate of the United Republican Party, URP. We are back and will be contesting the May 11th national and regional election with a new vision for a modern Guyana with love, honesty, and truthfulness. On election day, vote with your conscience. Vote URP. Our symbol, the cowhead. The wind of change is here. Right. God bless you.
Namaste and salam dosto, and welcome friends to West Indian Today, a proud presentation on behalf of the staff and management of ITV. I'm yours truly, your host and host, Imran Ahmad, welcoming you to today's program. And as we have been talking to you in the last few weeks, that we have been talking to many of our candidates, as in Guyana, we're in the season of elections. And as you saw, that on behalf of the United Republican Party, their presidential candidate, Mr. Vishnu Bandhu, just presented his message to you. Now, remember that May 11th, that is a very important day in Guyana, as your decisions, actually the decisions of your friends and relatives plays a very pivotal role, and so we encourage you to do influence them to make sure that they cast the right ballot on May 11th. And today, as we are talking on behalf of the United Republican Party, Mr. Vishnu Bandhu, we have some of his close friends. Today, joining with me in studio, I have Mr. David Correia, who is actually a close associate of Mr. Vishnu Bandhu. So let me welcome you to ITV Studios.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, and we really appreciate the exposure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So now, as we have heard from some of our parties, and we heard about their views and what their plans are to uplift Guyana. Today, we will be hearing about what Mr. Vishnu Bandhu wants to do in terms of economic development, and of course, uplifting Guyana, taking it to a new level, to a new platform, in which Mr. David Correia will be talking a little bit about that. But first, the United Republican Party was founded, I believe it was formed back in 1985.
Yes, it was founded in the 80s, when we had in Guyana the PNC government.
Right.
And if you remember at the time, it was very difficult for us to dislodge them from power at the time.
Right.
So the United Republican Party was formed among other parties that were formed at the time, and the United Republican Party was instrumental in bringing Jimmy Carter down to monitor the elections, which allowed us to have free and fair elections for the first time.
Right.
The United Republican Party, basically, after 1992, when it saw that the PVP had been elected...
And that's during the time of Dr. Chedi Jagan.
That's right, yes. He felt, Mr. Bandhu felt that we had gotten to the point where everything was now okay, the PVP was there, and he felt comfortable that they would lead the country into the proper direction and in the right way. So after that, he retired the party.
Yes.
And so that was the end of the URP, United Republican Party, at that time.
At that time, and now nearly 23 years later, close to 24 years later, the United Republican Party, URP, has now resurrected, and Mr. Vishnu Bandhu is now one of the presidential candidates running for president of Guyana. Now, I have to ask you, nearly 25 years later, what really influenced him to want to run for president of Guyana?
I like the question. It is a good question. What happened is Mr. Bandhu has always been one who felt for Guyana. He always wanted to help Guyanese. Even when he was here, when he had his business here, he would be looking for ways to help Guyana culturally and even the poor people. And he decided to go down to Guyana to lend his business expertise to the area. Mr. Bandhu is already a self-made millionaire in this country.
Right, okay.
He didn't need to go to Guyana for business, but he went there because he felt it was his way of contributing to Guyana. And when he went there, what he saw, he felt that it could be done better.
Okay, so...
And so he brought the United Republican Party back to life.
So, resurrecting the United Republican Party and wanting to make a change in Guyana. Now, what are some of the things that he felt that he could have done that the PPP or the government hasn't been doing as yet?
Mr. Bandhu, I'm speaking on his behalf here.
Right.
He tries not to criticize
any party, yes.
any party. And if you look at the campaign that he's running, it is not one of criticism. It is not one of negativity.
Yes.
It is one of what we can do. And what he feels we can do, what we can concentrate on, is economic development. Now, this is a businessman. This is a man who has made himself from nothing. And he brought himself up, made himself into a businessman so that he is a self-made man. He has told me that he has been poor and he has been wealthy. And right at this point in time, he happens to be wealthy.
And so being wealthy is one thing, but of course he's a very modest person. In fact, that, you know, he, at first I believe he was not really interested in, he wanted someone else to represent the URP, I believe, as a presidential candidate. Now, talking about lots of issues that, you know, many of our people have been expressing that they would like to see what the next president or what the next government will do. There's things like cleaning up sanitation, also developing the law system and everything. So if we can, let's go into these issues really quickly. In Guyana, actually, the law system, many people do tend to find that, you know, there's lots of corruption amongst the police department, and, you know, they often argue, they often stress about this thing that the law system does need to be reformed. What is Mr. Bandu's plan in terms of reforming the law system there?
Mr. Bandu wants, because his background is business, Mr. Bandu is looking at stressing economic development primarily.
Okay.
However, with respect to things like behavior of the civil servants,
yes,
and the treatment of the civil servants, because it's a two-sided coin. It's not, we look at them and say they are doing this, but we are not seeing how the government treats the civil servants.
Okay.
Very low salaries, very few benefits. It's not, years ago when I was a child, I remember that I would look at a policeman, I would look up to a policeman.
Right.
Right now, people look at a policeman as somebody who is stretching out their hands. They stretch out their hands because they have a need. The salaries aren't adequate.
Right.
So when you look at these people, it is not only what are they doing wrong, is what the government and the people of Guyana should do to help these people who are there to help them. So the aim of Mr. Bandu is, number one, in training. Number two is making sure that there are proper incentives for these people to be, so that they feel pride, whether they be nurses, teachers, police, customs people, border control people, army people, all these civil servants, people who work for the government, who work for us in Guyana.
Yes.
He wants to make sure they feel they're trained, they're appreciated, and they're well salaried.
Very good. And, you know, as you mentioned that, of course, sometimes that they may not take the job seriously because of a poor salary. And of course, he wants to focus mainly on economic development. Now, what are some of his plans in terms of economic development? And of course, starting new businesses for, I guess, small business owners there. How does he want to like economically develop Guyana?
That's very good. The thing, even though we are called the United Republican Party,
right?
Please don't mix us up with the Republican Party here. Other than we believe in the strength of having a strong business community.
Yes.
Other than that, Mr. Bandu believes in encouraging both financially, technologically, and economically supporting, and the laws, making laws to support small businesses.
Yes.
So that business, because he feels that the economy is driven by the small business.
Yes, that is true.
And so because of this, he wants to make sure that the laws are there so it's easier to set up businesses. The training is there for people who want to go into business. The government will support the businessman, whether it be through tax incentives or laws that make it easy for people to set up businesses, that sort of thing. So those are things that the United Republican Party is going to stress because the aim is economic development. The problem is that much of this can only be done if you have money.
Right.
You get money from business.
From business.
You get money from having people develop businesses that they have the money that they can pay taxes, that they can pay for schools, that they can pay for police, that they can pay for roads. These are things that come about because of economic development. Therefore, the thing is to make sure that economically you're sound. Once you're sound economically, these are things that will be done. Now, Mr. Bandu is very much an ethical person, meaning one of the reasons I am supporting the party is because of Mr. Bandu.
Right.
Mr. Bandu I view as somebody who, at one time he had joked with me that he was considering turning over the president's elect position to
right,
somebody
that's
else.
what we had mentioned, yes.
Yes. And I said, Mr. Bandu, if you do, I will not be supporting the party.
Right.
Because I am supporting it because of a gentleman that I know. Here is somebody, Mr. Bandu is a very religious man. Mr. Bandu has built several mandirs. Right now in Vredenhoop, there is one of the most beautiful mandirs in Guyana that Mr. Bandu coordinated and built in Vredenhoop. That's right. In this country, he has been the president of the Arya Samaj, which is a denomination of
Yes,
the
that is
Hindu
so, yes.
for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
Right.
He is a very religious man. So here's a man with this background and a businessman who is going to be the president of Guyana.
So here we see, and of course, as we talk about some of these issues, we tie it back to that if we have business, and of course, if we have money, then only then can we have this economic growth. Can anything else go forward? So without money, then nothing else can take place, like not being able to pay people to clean up sanitation and whatnot. Basically having the country financially stable is very important. And now, so those business owners, who have migrated, actually, does Mr. Bandu would he like to see that maybe they can take their business back home and even see progress there?
Mr. Bandu would like to encourage that, of course. Mr. Bandu himself has taken himself as an example. He has gone back to Guyana to contribute, and there are many people, but there is a waste in Guyana of. And this is one of the things that he has stressed. There's a waste in Guyana of people because of a lack of education.
Yes.
We do not have the people there who are educated, who are staying in the country because of the migration. And this migration is hurting us economically, it's hurting us in every way, because the people who are left there are people who, many of the young people, they don't have the education, they don't have the training for the jobs that might be available. Right now, for example, if you look at the Marriott Hotel, where they brought these people in, they said the people in Guyana were not qualified for it. And
that actually did cause a big controversy, actually.
Okay, and maybe if you look first at training the people for these jobs,
yes,
maybe that would be the way. And Mr. Bandu believes in education. He believes, one of the slogans he uses, "No child left behind," which is a slogan in this country, but it shows that he believes that education is the way out of poverty.
Yes.
It's the way to move the country forward.
Definitely.
One of the problems with Guyana right now is our GDP is so low. I remember the World Bank says something like, we're only second to Haiti with respect to in the CARICOM region.
Right.
And Mr. Bandu feels that this could be changed. We have, in Guyana, we have gold, we have wood, we have land, we have sugar, we have rice, we have edos, we have tanyas, we have plantains, we have so many things
we
that we should be
resources.
exporting.
Yes, there you go.
And infrastructure and export is one of the ways that we can bring money into the country.
And, before I let you go, I would like to hand over to you one more time that, you can say something on behalf of the URP, the United Republican Party.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. The URP is led by a man who is very honest and very straightforward. He is a man who came from the farming community in Guyana, and he is a man who feels for the farmers in Guyana. This is an area where he feels that Guyana can develop and become the breadbasket of the Caribbean with the promise. Please go to our website, www.unitedrepublicanparty.org, to help us, to see what we can do, to help support us. We appreciate any help you give us. Thank you.
And with these few words, we will end this segment of our program, and when we come back, we will be in conversation with Mr. Mahindra Rajkumar, as we will talk a little bit more about Mr. Vishnu Bandu's plan for Guyana if elected as president. Stay with us. We'll be back after this commercial break.
fellow Guyanese, brothers and sisters. I am Vishnu Bandhu, a businessman, founder, chairman, and presidential candidate of the United Republican Party, URP. We are back and will be contesting the May 11 national and regional election with a new vision for a modern Guyana with love, honesty, and truthfulness. On election day, vote with your conscience. Vote URP. Our symbol, the cowhead. The wind of change is here. God bless you.
Welcome back, friends, and welcome to West Indian Today. If you've just joined with us today, we are in discussion with the representatives of the United Republican Party. As recently in the first part of the program, we were in discussion with Mr. David Correia, and the United Republican Party, as you heard, is a party that is being led by Mr. Vishnu Bandhu, the presidential candidate who actually resurrected this party after nearly 23 years after they disbanded it in 1992 when the PPP took government, and recently in January of 2015, that is when Mr. Vishnu Bandhu announced that he would like to run for president of Guyana under the URP, United Republican Party. Joining with me in this portion of our program, I have the privilege of having Mr. Mahindra Rajkumar, who is the son of Krish Rajkumar, a prominent supporter of Mr. Vishnu Bandhu. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to the ITV studios.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And actually, I want to say thank you to your mom, Kausilya Rajkumar, she was the one who arranged this interview, actually.
Yes, very great, because we need to get our voice out there, before Vishnu Bandhu. He's, he needs support. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of people out there who believe in the change that's needed, because they're all still listening to all these old people about the past politics that are not working anymore. It's,
right, yes.
It's like the blind leading the blind out there. And there was a quote that Mahatma Gandhi once said, right? It was Mahatma Gandhi who once said, "If we practice an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, soon the whole world will be blind and toothless." And the political people out there are blind and toothless in terms of economic growth, because they keep on spending all their money in frivolous building projects. Especially, you hear of presidents and have mansions and whatnot, and our people can have their own mansions.
Very nice. And you mentioned economic growth, and so that now brings me, actually, we pick up from where we left off in our last segment, as we were talking about infrastructure and, of course, developing Guyana, having new roads, as we have seen. We did talk to Mr. David Correia about, in the time in which the PPP was in office, we have seen some growth where there was times where roads were just mere pebbles on the road, and now some people have actually said, they've actually given testimony that roads have actually improved, but yet still it has not developed 100%. So now kindly shed some light on this. Now, Mr. Vishnu Bandhu, being a businessman who lived in North America for quite some time, and after 23 years, as being a businessman, has now returned back to Guyana, wanting to serve his people, and economic growth is what he emphasizes on. Yes. So what are some of the things that, he wants to basically do to basically uplift Guyana?
Well, there's a couple of things. He wants to first do information and communication technology. He wants to spend a lot in that. He wants to educate the people of how to, use computers and bring more information.
Right.
To the people about using the new technologies out there, right? It's called ICT.
ICT, right.
That he wants to invest in, so people can have more education and ability to learn the trades that they need to learn.
When we're talking about infrastructure and, of course, sanitation, which is something that remains a big issue back in Guyana, what is his outlook towards these sort of things?
Well, he wants to bring more water.
Right, water, because electricity is still a problem.
We got to build we got to build more public works out there, especially more water. We need to have better sanitation in terms of, we need to have water pumping stations that can reach out to all the villages and whatnot. Or, we need to set up simple water stations in a general area so it can get, we need to start a central base in a lot of areas.
Right.
And then go from there. So he wants to, work where a lot of population's at, and start with simple things like water, electricity,
yes.
of course, and then you go with the communication towers, and then more of public schools and more technical schools, so people can start learning a trade and be able to start performing the tasks that they should be able to work for and gain the wealth that they so rightfully deserve. We have a lot of wealth coming through, and not a lot of people, it's being not spread out back to the people. And
Right.
and if the wealth is actually going into these public works for water and education and electricity.
And when we talk about Guyana and, of course, developing Guyana economically, one of the things that comes into mind is the security, you know, because there's lots of corruption, there's lots of crime that takes
Yes.
place. Right here in North America, whether we're in New York, Florida, anywhere, we're constantly subscribing to whether it's the Guyanese, the West Indian, and all we're seeing is, you know, something about murder, something about rape. What is his plan towards that? You know, I mean, to basically like remove corruption.
He wants to have a border security for Guyana, and with education that he keeps on trying to promote, we need to build an Air Force base, right? He wants to build an Air Force base and that's how he's going to unite the people, have everybody come into the Air Force and be able to protect the country and make sure that nobody's fighting for border protections between Brazil and Venezuela.
Very nice.
About, you know, stealing the little borderline and trying to take away from Guyana.
So basically ensuring the safety of all the residents of Guyana in that sense.
Yes.
Well, beautifully said. And of course, the border security is much important in ensuring the safety of all the residents of Guyana. And with these few words, we do extend our best wishes to Mr. Vishnu Bandhu. Now, to Mr. Mahindra Rajkumar, you know, your father has been a supporter of Mr. Vishnu Bandhu, and I think that you know him in some sense. So tell our viewers a little bit something about Mr. Vishnu Bandhu, about the type of person that he is, and that, you know, why do you think he would be a worthy candidate or a worthy president for Guyana in the elections?
Well, number one, my father absolutely 100% believes in him, you know, and when you hear him speak and you feel his energy, you want to support him.
Right.
It's just inspiring just to listen to him, to hear him talk about how passionate he is for Guyana. I mean, he was in New York for the longest time, and now he moved back to Guyana, same as my father. He built himself up, and he went back to Guyana, same as Vishnu, to create a better Guyana.
To create a better Guyana, yes.
You know, and he wants to invest into the community because he's tired of seeing the corruption and the crime that keeps on continuing to happen across everywhere.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, with these few words, actually, as you see, that we have indeed a very promising candidate in Mr. Vishnu Bandhu, representing the United Republican Party and, of course, resurrecting it after 23 years after the PPP took government, and now wanting to make a change and uplift Guyana, carry Guyana to a new platform, a higher platform than it already is. And so, on that note, I want to say a very special thank you to Mr. Mahindra Rajkumar. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
And also to your mom, Kausalya Rajkumar.
Thank you, Mom, for this great opportunity.
Thank you so much. And, you know, I mean, it has indeed been a great honor. So, friends, do remember that on Monday, May 11th, that alongside with Mr. David Granger, Mr. Donald Ramotar, another presidential candidate is also added to that ballot, and he is none other than Mr. Vishnu Bandhu. We will end this portion of our program as once again we present to you the message of Vishnu Bandhu. But before we let you go, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you, to the staff and management of ITV, our dear friend Mr. Ravi, who has accommodated us with today's recording, and to each and every one of you, if you have any comments, any suggestions towards this program, please do feel free to send me an email to imran@ITV Gold. Of course, we know that election season is right around the corner, and we want to hear what are your views towards the presidential candidates. We've heard from some of them so far, so we want to let you know how you feel about their message. From this time to next time, we say have a blessed and a productive week ahead. This is your host and dose, signing off.
Fellow Guyanese, brothers and sisters, I am Vishnu Bandhu, a businessman, founder, chairman, and presidential candidate of the United Republican Party, URP. We are back and will be contesting the May 11 national and regional election with a new vision for a modern Guyana with love, honesty, and truthfulness. On election day, vote with your conscience, Vote URP. Our symbol, the cowhead. The wind of change is here. God bless you.